Okay, I'm still out running here, and I'll tie this in just a moment to our sermon illustrations, thoughts, and tips for today. But we talked about number one, always keeping number one, okay? And but this one is number two. Now think about two, if you will. Where does the preacher start? Well, you have two choices with sermon illustrations. You can start with the illustration itself and then try to build a message around it. Now, there's a grave weakness here, and that is your story becomes the lesson, and your story becomes the most important thing. Your story becomes what you're after and what you're concerned about. And the story becomes really the lesson that then the listener must either accept or reject, and based on that, that becomes their authority for what you're saying. There's a problem with that. Your experience isn't something that others ought to be living out of, or your story something people live out of. Instead, what they need to live out of is not your story, not the illustration, but rather instead they need to live out of the Word of God. So always start with number one. Number one is the Word of God. You begin with the Word of God. What's your truth you're illustrating? That truth, very simply, for me today, is the book of Revelation chapter 2, that we need to return to our first love. We need to make that choice. So now in finding an illustration for that, there's several places I can go. One, I can go back and just start with the Bible character. How about Adam? Adam and Eve, the story of a first love gone bad. Should have been in love with the Lord and keeping God first, but instead Adam substituted a second love. And that second love was Eve, and he put Eve before God, and it got him in trouble. There's an illustration for you. Or how about out of real life experience? Here I'm running. You say, why in the world are you running all the time, Doug? Well, let me tell you, some days I get up and I love running. It's a great joy. It fills my body with energy. It's great. But there's a lot of days I don't run because I'm enjoying it. I run because of my first love, and my first love I've got to keep in touch with my mind is very simply this. I love my body working properly. When my lungs fill with air, my body's doing well, the rest of me functions well, my mind functions well, and I want to keep a longer life. And so let me encourage you that by even life experiences, you can find some illustrations by thinking of two. First, what am I illustrating? Second, where am I stopping, and what's my illustration going to be able to drive that point home? God bless you.